Now you can turn on both cameras and microphones. And to be honest, I'm so excited and thrilled that you're here. All of you are my good friends. Ryan, I don't know you that much. I have read about you, but you're welcome here as well. I just want to say that it's, to be both the technical director, the editor, the moderator, and everything in one go is a little stressful, especially when I found out that I forgot to upload the intro video to this session, but we managed anyway. So, guys, have you seen any of the previous sessions?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I think we both caught, or most of us probably caught some from yesterday at least. Diego is one thing Pat and I don't tend to pass up.
Yeah, I always watch Diego.
Yeah. Pat McGrew, is the smart factory as a subject at all important to discuss?
Oh, Lord, yes. In so many ways. It's important for small printers, for medium-sized printers, for large printers, and for mega printers. And even for those people who think they have one, they should still be discussing it. And
I totally understand that should be discussed, and I totally agree that. But the reason I'm asking, and Marianne, maybe you can answer this question, is because in our European version of our smart factory, Jacob Hiddedam-Hummel, that Pat, who used to work for Heidelberg, said that one of the reasons why we at all talk about smart factory and Industry 4.0 right now is because it's new. In a very, very short time, it will be as normal as having a mobile phone and having an internet connection that you will not even think about it. What do you think, Marianne? Oh, you should turn on your sound, please. Turn on your sound, please.
No, we can't hear you, Marianne.
Try refresh your browser. Maybe you can answer this one instead, Jonathan.
So tell me, I'm sorry, I was trying to hear you as well. What was the question again?
Yeah, the question is that Jacob from ex-Heidelberg, he said that as we are now talking about Industry 4.0 and everything like that, in a few years' time, it will not be important to discuss because we don't talk about mobile phones and internet. It's just become a commodity to us. Will Industry 4.0 be relevant to talk about in 3 months' time?
I think so. I mean, I think the thing with Industry 4.0 is that it's probably very few people out there who have gotten to it yet, right? So I think it's going to become more and more relevant as time goes on, and technology is really spurring it on.
Yeah. So that was a good answer. So, and that basically also leads, of course, at some point we will get to 5.0, right? So we will not get unemployed. Marianne, do you have sound now?
We cannot hear you, Marianne. Yeah, there's an awful lot of words coming out of Marianne's mouth, and now we lost Jonathan.
Yeah. Okay. No. So what I suggest, just so you get back, is basically if you log out, when you click the presenter link, there is this little test. Sometimes if you click on the wrong microphone and the wrong thing, that might be the reason. Maybe Jonathan is trying to help you out right now. Okay.
Yeah, all right. Can I take a stab at that one though?
Yeah, sure.
So, and I know Jacob, and I have great respect for him, and Ryan knows him well as well, and he's been a topic that we've discussed from time to time. You know that for some people, Industry 4.0 is already old.
Yeah.
And yet for others, they still don't know what it is. So the span is pretty broad.
And that is, of course, why I find this topic important. And I have been a little bit surprised because when we did this one in Europe, there was not that many attendees. There's been a lot of good people on the replays. On the days yesterday, it was, I would say, Diego was in depth. So I would say that there wasn't that many attendees either, not today either. But I think that the replays, and I was a little bit surprised about it because this is something that is make it or die, right? Ryan, what do you think?
Is.
Yeah.
Well, I think what we're going to see is that the people that set the foundation for it now or have already been started, like Pat said, there's some that are kind of there. by the time we get 5-10 years out, it's going to be a huge divide in the industry of people who have done it and can be successful because of that, and the people that are really struggling or have exited the business or whatever other kind of bad situation that they had to face. So I think that's where it really comes in to be important. Is really looking ahead, and I agree. Pat and I do a workflow assessments, and it's a little bit of a misnomer, I think, because, and I'm actually going to say something I don't think I've ever said publicly, Pat, which is, I don't, we tend to think as technology people like we are that it's all about the software, it's all about automation and so forth. But I've kind of had an epiphany as of late, I would say, and it's really, for me, the processes. Because I see that as the failure point for many shops today. It's automation only allows you to do more of the same thing, but if you're doing the wrong thing to begin with, that's a problem. You're not gonna
automating that will not help.
Exactly. So, and doing the wrong thing as an example is maybe, having your CSR pre-flight, open up a file and pre-flight it, even though it's been pre-flighted on the web to print system, like what Diego was talking about yesterday. Or maybe it's that you have a second pair of eyes look at the quote that your MIS system is quoting to because you set it up, and but you still don't trust it enough, quote unquote, to go with it.
And people do that because they don't trust the data that's being fed into the MIS.
Exactly. So fix that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So again, that makes sense. Joanne, you're from Canada, and you used to work for also a software company, and Avanti. And I was just wondering, when you look into this event of this week, and with your knowledge and your skills and your background, things like that. I take that you are more from a communications perspective, right? How does this influence, from a customer perspective, how does this influence anything in relation to you and to the people like you?
Marketers. Look, there's a lot of opportunities no matter what business you're in. You don't have to be in print. If you're in any kind of manufacturing industry, any kind of software or hardware industry, as far as I'm concerned, have opportunities to automate. I've got clients in the insurance industry that didn't really realize they were selling workflow until I pointed out to them, you're selling workflow. And it was easy for me to connect those dots, probably because I've been so entrenched and have researched and really invested time in learning about Industry 4.0, learning about where to find those breaks, how to ask the right questions so that you can get the answers you need to make the informed decisions. And that's really what it all comes down to, is asking the right questions. So from a communications perspective, I can help companies ask questions of their prospects and their customers so that they can figure out, I always say who you help, how you help, and why it matters. And this is so critical in being efficient. And even in my own business, I do something and I'm always in my head is like, okay, if I had to do this again, so I'll spend the extra time to create once so that I can replicate multiple times. I take that everywhere I go.
And that was actually the same answer. You know what I would have thought you were saying?
Uh-oh.
I would have said, yes, it's because we have beacons everywhere. We have IoT connected refrigerators everywhere. No,
that's my house.
That's your house. And then we have everything like that. So from a communications perspective, we need to ensure that all these IoT devices connect directly into the workflow so people get anything they want before they actually know it. I thought that was the answer.
It could be, but that's not where I'm looking at it. I'm all about finding the answers.
Yeah,
really.
I'm just kidding. Yeah, you know me, so that I apologize. I apologize. So that is cool, guys. You are out of the company is out of San Diego. Jonathan, you're the only one that is actually employed in the company, right? Marianne she doesn't want us anymore. So what is Solimar?
Well, Solimar is a workflow company that provides software for the automation, the improvement, the optimization of basically, we throw this word workflow around, but basically it's all of those steps you take from the time something comes in to a print or digital communications provider's environment to the time it gets delivered. And we can affect all parts of that. We like to call it onboarding, but a lot of people wouldn't think of it that way. But it's basically on that file or job or order receipt all the way through the process. We provide a platform of software that'll we believe help improve the entire process and deliver a lot of ROI so that businesses can focus on doing what they do best, which is offering an end product, right? They want to do more and grow and hit their goals, and we hope to help them do that.
And in that mission, so to speak, is that something that you find a huge difference whether it's smaller printers or larger printers that gives you that opportunities, or are you addressing a specific part of the market?
Well, I think traditionally we would have said that we were addressing the transactional part of the market back 30 years ago. Will be our 30th year next year. But really today we see, yeah, thank you. I mean, and really I owe that to Marianne as she fights with the technology, because just because you own a software company doesn't mean technology likes you. Just remember that. So it's the truth. I mean, we're all living in this virtual world. But the thing about Solimar is we focused long ago on a certain market of transactional, then grew our direct mailers, and now we're continuing to evolve into more book workflows and commercial print. We have an eye on packaging and wide format and labels because they're PDF driven, and we have based our technology on the foundations of PDF. So we have a kind of unique viewpoint in the market here. And my dad would kill me for saying kind of unique. It is unique. We like PDF and we are experts in it, and we sit on the standards committees. So we come at it that direction while others come at it from their own unique angle.
Perfect. And Marianne, did you say anything today, or are you just the pretty face in the corner?
Hopefully, thank you. Hopefully you can hear me now.
Ah, congratulations.
Oh, wait.
You are. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Yes. Wait, you did hear me. Good.
Yeah,
Yeah, I've tried 3 devices, and yeah, I'm ready to go jump in the San Diego Bay here. So sorry about that. Yes, no. I've been listening on one computer. So
okay, that's great.
Wonderful. You asked me a question. I'm so sorry. Yep.
No. The thing is that you have brought, I think, maybe the core of knowledge workers in the U.S. together in one session. So I can't really complain that if you leave and somebody else can answer. I take it as valid arguments, right?
Yes,
so
we have
guys,
5 good voices here. Yes.
Yeah, definitely, guys. I will leave you now to your own. Hopefully everything works. Do you have any questions in relation to technical things right now, or are we good so far?
I think we're ready to rock and roll.
Okay, and I will turn off my camera and my microphone. I will listen to the entire session, and just remember that we have to be finished in 45 minutes or so. Hopefully a little bit more, because I think the Q&As are so fun. So let's roll, right?
Okay, we'll roll. Marianne, you want to kick us off?
Wonderful. Yes. Thank you all for joining us today on Smart Factory 4.0. I'm Marianne Rowan, Chief Experience Officer, joined with a whole array of wonderful people and my friends. So I'll probably have you all introduce yourselves as well, since everyone mostly likely knows you, but go ahead and introduce that. We'll start with Pat.
Hey, I'm Pat McGrew, and I'm the Managing Director for McGrew Group. I work with a lot of industry leaders in workflow and hardware to help them communicate more effectively to their clients and to help their clients communicate to their customers as well. And I love workflow.
Absolutely.
Hey,
all
Ryan,
right, Jonathan.
you go next. Oh, Jonathan, sorry.
That's okay. I'm depending on your order on your screen.
On my screen, Ryan is next. So
there you go.
Hey, Ryan,
I'll
you
go
go.
then. Just to get it out of the way. Ryan McAbee, I work with a company called Keypoint Intelligence as the director of workflow. So really it's working with print service providers or producers, converters, however you want to think about it, on the printing side of it, doing workflow assessments, helping them get smarter with their processes, and then also working with the vendor community to keep everything up to date there. And at our core, we're a research and consulting firm. So that's what we do. to. And we've been doing some interesting testing with Solimar too. So, and they actually won one of our awards recently for their Ready PDF product. So I'll pass it to Jonathan now, and maybe he can introduce himself and talk to that too.
Oh, we don't have.
I work for Mary. That should be working now. I am the Senior Director of Engagement, so I do engagey type of things like this, as well as interact with our global partners and customers and our Customer Advisory Council of 30 members. So that keeps Marianne and I very busy. And I mean, really what I said before is we provide a platform to optimize, improve, and really do more with less is what we believe with our software. And Solimar has been evolving over 30 years to do that. So it's an exciting place to be. And I don't want to belabor that. You can learn more about us anytime you like by reaching out to Marianne. All right. But Joanne, please tell us about yourself. I was so excited that you were going to be able to join us and bring a slightly different lens.
Oh, I always bring a slightly different lens to things. Thank you for inviting me. Yes, I am Joanne Gore. I am a B2B marketer who's passionate about print. I'm the president of Joanne Gore Communications, and we're a virtual B2B marketing agency. And we're basically helping companies, primarily hardware, software, manufacturing companies, stretch their marketing dollars with programs that generate awareness, engagement, and growth. And right now, we're helping a lot of folks learn new ways to engage and share and sell. And we're helping companies pinpoint who they help, how they help, and most importantly, why it matters today. So JoanneGoreCommunications.com, and of course, find me on LinkedIn. It's Joanne Gore 121. That's me.
I love it. So, you know, Marianne doesn't like to talk about herself, but I just want to throw this out there that she's been leading the charge as basically, we call her employee 2 now. She was 3, but now she's 2. We love her vision and her perspective, so we wanted to have her on. I feel blessed that we have more women on this track than guys. No offense, Ryan, but I think it's a great balance for the industry. And Pat, why don't we kick it over to you to really start to moderate what we want to talk about today?
Right. So one of the things we wanted to do with this time that we have to share with all the attendees and those of you on the replay, we wanted to talk about what a smart print factory really means, and frankly, why you should be paying attention to it. So we wanted to start with the idea of what a smart factory really means to each of us. And Joanne, I want to start with you because you did some time at Avanti, you know, so you got to know a lot of commercial people there, and have a sort of an insightful look into what a workflow typically looks like in a commercial shop. It's not always a pretty thing. And you've lived the transaction life as well. So when you think about a smart print factory, what do you think it has to look like?
It has to ensure that all methods of communication are covered, and that you shouldn't have to go digging and searching and looking for the information you need to be effective at your job. Most importantly, and this is where I get frustrated, particularly with software companies, the data that you get, whether it's from dashboards, reports, and everybody talks about the fact we have dashboards and we get all these reports, it's awesome. But if you don't actually understand what the data is telling you, then it doesn't matter. And that, to me, is the essence of a smart factory. It's because if you've planned your workflow, if you've optimized your processes, then the information you get should be the information that matters to you. And it might not be the same as the information that's the person beside you, but it's what you need to make the decisions you need to make to be the most efficient, most effective, and most valuable resource for your company. And that, to me, is a smart factory.
So the infrastructure of a smart factory is data.
Yeah, absolutely. It has to be. It has to be.
Okay.
I can't see how it isn't, because that's what's going to connect everything and flow together and ensure the checks and balances.
Okay, so Ryan, you and I have had the joy of doing workflow assessments together. And sometimes finding the data or trying to figure out if the data is the right data is part of the trick. So I take Joanne's point, but what's a smart factory to you?
Yeah, I think it's definitely a component to a smart factory, what Joanne was talking about. And it's a very critical component, actually. But, you know, being from a research and consulting firm, we have to give definitions for everything because we deal with people across the globe. So I'll read that to you. And then more importantly, I'll tell you what it feels like, because I think that'll paint the mental picture for you. So a kind of a rough definition is that for a smart, and we call it smart print manufacturing because we wanted to focus more on the processes of manufacturing than the actual factory, which I think of building, but it's semantics, right? I mean, at the end of the day, we're all talking about the same things, whether we say smart factory, smart print factory, Industry 4.0, it's all kind of this bundle of stuff. But how we roughly define it is kind of combining advanced technologies like, you know, cloud computing is an example, with effective manufacturing processes so that the systems and software are doing more work than the people. And that's what we're ultimately going to, right? And I think the thing that, to attach a label to what Joanne was talking about, because I've been thinking about that a lot lately too, is it's the way I think about it is kind of contextual intelligence. So it's that data, we're good at collecting it as a community now, particularly on the vendor perspective. What we're not so great at is getting it to the right people and, more importantly, telling them why it matters and how they should actually use it and go forward and conquer. Now, to paint the picture about how I think a smart factory feels, it's calm, it's orderly. It's you walk into a print shop and it's not putting out fires and people running here and people running there and all that kind of thing. It's very cool, calm, and collected.
Okay. So and so maybe not the wall-to-wall sticky notes across people's desktops and whiteboards with a lot of things scratched out and
None of that.
Okay. So a smart factory is going to be based on data. It's going to be based on process, right? And a definition of processes. And does it have to be automated?
It basically, you arrive at that point if you do the right thing, right? Because what you eventually find is that if once you whittle down to the right processes, in other words, doing the right thing that you should be doing, you will still run into bottlenecks. In other words, you can't scale enough because you can't throw enough people at it, or you can't throw enough time at it, or whatever your constraint is. And so once you are doing the right thing, but you can't get to that next level, that's when you inevitably have to bring in the automation. So it really does drive you to that point no matter what.
It's sort of the logical outcome. So Marion and Jonathan, a lot of the customers of yours that I've had the ability to visit, they just about are smart factories because to a large extent they have to be. They're very data-driven types of customers in direct mail, in publishing, in transaction. They're the kinds of companies that I think of as they don't have the time to wait for manual processes. They've got to automate in many ways. But would you consider your customers the implementers of smart factories?
You know, Pat, that's a really good thing, and I'll throw it to Marianne after I give you this kind of lens. I think that they are the ones that are the inspiration behind needing a smart factory. I think a lot of them over the last 30 years have built their own. But what we're finding is the build your own methodology has led to a lot of tech debt, a lot of maintenance, a lot of when people move on, then it's not as smart and not as automated because the knowledge has left. And so I think with Smart Factory and Industry 4.0, what we're really starting to see a shift to with those companies having kind of charted the path in some ways, because that's where our proving ground is that people in smaller markets or smaller companies need a proven product that's supported and maintained so that they don't lose knowledge over generations. That's kind of how I look at it. Marianne, what do you think?
Right. Well, certainly. So our customers definitely have had parts of their companies in the smart factory. Like in the transactional business, they typically knew they get daily jobs, weekly jobs, monthly jobs. A lot of consistency there. But what they were worried about now, or what they've grown to more worry about, are the small jobs. So now the small, the strange, the reprints, and if you don't document that well, then that's where your smart factory isn't calm, as Ryan was saying. I might do reprint one way and Pat does it another way, and that's a wonderful question to walk in. So tell me just a little bit how you do reprints, and it's like usually get a lot of replies.
Everybody you ask tells you a different story, right?
Right, and so what we try to help folks with is really tracking all the touch points from receipt of jobs over to all the way out the door, all the way delivered. And then now we see our same factories now accepting new types of work. So commercial spaces moving into digital. They typically haven't had a lot of our types of tools to track things, right? So now they need that. And we can also bring the element of security as well. So securing personal information, it's like to say even a postcard, for a coupon to a car wash with my address on it is PI. And so, teaching people to now manage all of that as well. So thus being calm because everything is contained and orderly.
And you know where it is. So this is all really important. Of course, we're all sitting here in the middle of a global pandemic. A lot of print shops have had to send a lot of their teams home to work. They're bringing their hardware operators in on odd shifts in order to keep them socially distanced. They're trying to learn new ways of working. There's a sense I have that the more automated you were before this all started, the better off you are in trying to handle all of this. But I might be wrong, because just because you're automated doesn't mean it's easy for somebody to work from home, right? So if I'm a print shop and I'm, some degree of automated and I have well-defined processes, but I'm still trying to operate and I've seen some sales drop off. Is this still a good time for me to think about adopting new smart factory concepts and maybe look at reworking my software? And I want to start with Solimar because you're talking to people every day, and then we'll check with the non-software vendors.
I think what you mean is we'll do a reality check, right?
That's it.
I mean, from the Solimar perspective, so look, we don't want anyone to take software they don't need. This isn't shelfware, right? It doesn't help anybody if our software goes and collects dust. We don't actually send it out in boxes anymore, but I think to your point, from a software perspective, the thing that is incredibly valuable with our customers who are using our software is the ROI. They always see ROI from putting the software in, and they may start small and grow, or they may do a strategic shift. It depends on your organization and the IT departments you have and the way that you want to implement change. But for most of our companies, I think we see more minor change that grows into bigger change as they take the culture with them. And I think it's important to know what's happening today before you can tell a software vendor what you want them to achieve. Because a lot of times we talk to people and the biggest trouble is, I don't know how my jobs come in. And so I think whether you're on the fence about investing or not, I think you owe it to yourself to do the hour work, the research work, to know everything about your process, because then you probably will come to the investment decision very quickly, in my opinion.
Good point. It's so
Absolutely.
Ryan. Oh, I'm sorry, Marianne. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just going to say the same thing. That really, it's a good time to invest in technology now, because we will come out of this COVID, and then we will have to manage all new type of working with customers. I know, John, we were on with a customer just recently who does all the mortgage statements and such. All the refinancing is going to go on, so he's building up his folks now because they can't wait until now we're good, and they're going to wait. It's too late. So.
And so, Ryan, as you've been talking to people on the sort of consulting side of the Key Point business, are they interested in investing to make things better for the future, or are they sort of holding pat?
Well, you have a mix in every situation, but I would say the ones that we would consider kind of leading or on the forefront are definitely taking advantage of the time, we've heard both from them and from the vendor community that some of the larger projects that, you know, it's always easy to push down the road because it's more complex or requires more time. And that might be like, you know, doing an additional thing for your print MIS, or maybe ramping up more storefronts in your web to print or your online ordering kind of thing, that they're putting the time into doing those things. Because what is happening too is that I think there will be because of behavioral changes that are getting established, because it only takes about 60, 70 days, depending on who you listen to establish a new behavior. But since we've had so much time to establish new behavior, like how we order print as an example, that whatever change you make toward meeting that goal today, just because of the pandemic, it's going to be a systemic change that carries on from your customers and your print buyers. So they're going to be using it after COVID is over and we're in the cure kind of phase. So whatever you do now, it's only going to benefit you later too.
Oh, so that's a really interesting point, though, because if we're establishing new behaviors especially towards processes, if we aren't careful and we don't define them well, we're going to wind up establishing the wrong behaviors.
Yeah. Well, it's not establishing the wrong behavior. Well, to some extent, it's establishing the wrong behavior internally, but it's more that you're not setting up the right processes to match the new behavior of your customer.
And
I think is how I would look at that more.
So when you look at a workflow assessment, how do you help a customer identify the right behaviors?
That's a good thing. I mean, we both use kind of the vernacular of, you know, you have to walk the workflow. And really that is taking it, as Diego kind of said yesterday, and I'd encourage everybody to listen to that session, but basically A to Z. That's the steps that it takes to do the work. And so we literally do that by your key or core application types, because every kind of product, so to speak, has a different path that it needs to take and different processes. Because, for instance, a business card is different than a brochure or a booklet because it doesn't need folding and stitching, right? It just needs cutting. Right. So those are different processes in the end. So you have to do it across really all your applications, but you're trying to identify at each one of those A, B, C touch points, basically the process that's being followed, the people that are doing it, and the tools that they're basically using to accomplish the work. And then I say it's really down to asking about 4 questions of each of those. Basically, is that the right task to be doing? Are the right people doing that task? Because we often find that issue too. Does the staff actually have the right tools to adequately perform that task? And is this task in the right order of what precedes it and what's supposed to come after it? And then finally, can this thing be automated? Yeah.
That it makes a lot of sense. And that the answers to those questions give you a lot of input. So Joanne, you play some of the same games that Ryan and I have played on the print side of workflow when you're working with pure software customers that aren't necessarily print related. So smart factory concepts aren't really, you know, we call it smart print manufacturing. Ryan and I've used that term a lot over the last few years, but this whole smart factory idea applies to just about everybody, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, to Ryan's point, it's really going to come down to customer experience. Right now, that's critical. We are all home. We are all living the sort of Netflix, Amazon, order online, and we can tell, ask anybody, oh, what do you like better, Zoom versus GoTo versus Teams? Everyone has their own experience preference. And, you know, partly to what Jonathan said as well, the habits that are being established now aren't going to necessarily revert to the way they were if the end result was something better than you used to have. So you know that old expression, if you always do what you always did, you'll always get what you always got. So if you go back, you're only going to get what you used to have. You're going to miss out on an opportunity where you can elevate the customer experience. And finding those touch points where that customer experience is highly critical. So when they're trying to get information, how easy is it for them to get the information that they need? Then how easy is it for them to either order or learn more without even having to call for a salesperson, because that's not happening anymore either. And in fact, before COVID, it was in you could get away with about half of the customer journey, and the second half is when they want to talk to a salesperson. It's been pushed out now even further into that customer journey. So there are opportunities, and it's not just print, it's every single customer. If you're selling something to somebody, you need to understand what they expect from an experience, not what you are prepared to give them. And that's where the conversations need to start happening of how can we make our customers happier? How can we get more customers like this? How can we, where is our quickest time to money right now? And how can we find more people like that? And all of that is based on how efficient you are internally in your, within your company, within your processes, from CSRs to sales to marketing. Every department has an opportunity to really focus on streamlining and getting that experience right. And I think that's where everything ties together. Everybody just uses different terms. We just like workflow because
Joanne, yeah, we like workflow because we kind of understand that it makes workflow. But so what are the metrics that you look at when you're talking to whether it's a printing company or a software company that supports print or some other process? What are the metrics that you look for that help you determine how you can help somebody?
Well, the first thing is to figure out what they're trying to achieve. Right? What are your goals? I mean, is it more leads? Is it more sales? Is it to ensure that the work is, whatever the goals are? Most of the time, companies need leads. They need more business, especially now. So I'm always trying to pinpoint that quickest time to money. And the best way to do that is to just look at your CRM and look at, if you take all of your clients and start looking at from the time they sort of raise their hands, whether they got a pen at a trade show or landed on your website, to the time they actually converted to a sale, what's that shortest time that you can, and how many like that can you find? When you have that information, you can then start to identify others like that and really specify unique programs or communications or solutions or add to your product menu that's going to address that market, because you can close them quickly. Once you've mastered that, then you can start to expand to sort of, and I'll use the term bubbles since we all now know what a bubble is. You can expand it to that next bubble. And it still will all come back to, as I said at the top, the data that you have. If you've got garbage in your CRM, you're not going to be able to do this. If you haven't been, I see so many companies that get leads in and they're not quality leads. So they're marked as dead. Yeah. So if they're not paying attention to those prospects coming in, even if they were 6 months ago, and everything is dead, you're not going to have the intelligence to make those decisions. So I really try to help them ask those questions.
So you're on the front end of the process trying to gather metrics that are going to help them sell better, which is, a little bit of guidance for not just printers, but the vendors who sell to printers. Mm-hmm. And so then, Ryan, you're sort of order to cash if you start to look at it, right? You're everything in the middle that when you're looking at a production workflow. And are there a couple of key metrics that you look for?
Well, funny enough, it's exactly, I'll just kind of chunk it down a little bit, but it's exactly what Joanne was saying. You first have to have a system that can capture information and data. So if your CRM is sticky notes or index cards or a Rolodex, good luck to you. So you have to have that, and you have to have the information to execute on. But then it becomes the question, even in the production side, what are you trying to measure? What are you trying to get better at? And what are you trying to accomplish? And probably in the reverse order of that. So it's kind of like diagnosing a cold if you're a doctor, right? Which is, we can spot symptoms, but what's the root cause of that? That's what you have to kind of uncover. So in other words, if you're kind of continually missing like SLAs or due dates, well, that's you've got a workflow problem, right? If you kind of are always having to pay overtime, you've got a workflow problem. You just have to figure out where. If you have stacks of paper that are wasted on pallets, you've got a workflow problem. So it's just a matter of figuring out where it's at in your entire A to Z processes. That becomes the trick. And then you can figure out the metric to monitor that consistently over time to make sure you don't regress to have that problem again.
Okay, so we've got the front end, the order to cash. So let me come back to Marianne and Jonathan. When you look at a typical Solimar customer, they have all the problems that Joanne and Ryan have described, right? They're trying to deal with the sale of the product that they have, and then they're trying to create a workflow that allows them to earn the best margins, right? They're looking for optimization. They're looking for, I think in most cases, even if they don't vocalize it as automation, that's really what their ultimate goal is. They're looking for as few touch points as possible. So how do you have that conversation about, what metrics they're looking for, what's important to them when it comes to trying to streamline their print factory?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the funny part of it is that it's not often actually that people come to us and say, I want to get better. In most cases, they're coming to us because they're trying to adopt some other technology, or they're trying to integrate a company they've bought through M&A, or they're the A and they're being acquired by the M, by the merger, so the acquisition is being done. And so I guess where I would just, because I know we want to get to some questions and stuff, is where I would say is, we normally have to help be part of that guide. That's why Marianne and I do so much around relationships and engagement, is because you can fix tactical problems all day long, and the software will happily do that for you. But where you get the return on your investment into enterprise class software is by leveraging all of the value, because you get it whether you want it or not. So if you're going to purchase it, you should know all the places it's going to help you, and then get the most out of it, in our opinion. And so we do ask a lot of probing questions, which sometimes frustrates people, but I think it's because they're not coming at it from the sense of already knowing the answer. I think it's frustrating when you get a bunch of questions and you have to go research, which is why we so advocate. I mean, we love your talk track, walk your workflow.
Yep. And workflow assessments really contribute to helping a customer come to grips with the challenges in their workflow, right? A lot of times they already know where the challenges are, but until somebody surfaces them almost in a PowerPoint bullet point, they don't believe they're really there, right? That's certainly true. Hey, Morton, you're back. So I am guessing you've got some probing questions for the panel.
I have never been away. I've just turned off the camera, so don't worry about that. So I have listened.
Never worry.
Yeah, no.
Lurking in the background.
I'm lurking in the background. Then I can have my water and my if I had a gin and tonic, I could have that at the same time. But I didn't this time. No. Wonderful conversation, and what I like about your approach is maybe I'm misinterpreting, but to me it's very much like a people's approach.
I think it is. I think if you cross, I think everybody here, Joanne, Ryan, myself and the work that I do, and the Solimar team approach every workflow problem from the people perspective. I think you're exactly right.
Well, and let's go back to B2B, right? So why do people buy in most business environments? Is they buy from people they know, they trust, and that they value their perspective. And someone said on another session, Diego was talking about making your vendor earn your dollars for renewals. And what we want is it never to get to that conversation. We want our Solimar customers to know that we're in their corner and never doubt that there is value in what we're trying to develop for them. It's kind of a key, tenet of our foundation.
That links back to something David Zwang said too yesterday in his session about Industry 4.0 is all about collaboration. And what you've heard everybody here talk about is that every process is collaborative. And that's what gets you to the optimum workflow for a given environment, because no two are the same.
The reason why sorry to interrupt. So I take this one. Now it's my turn. No, the reason why I was asking whether it was like this people's approach is because I think that one of the things that we sometimes forget in the industry is that it becomes down to how fast a machine is, the color gamut of machine, how many pages you can process. That workflow is the salvation of everything, essentially, right? And I was just wondering if your decision when we started planning this smart factory from a Solimar perspective, and also because of the number of people that are participating in your event here. Is that something that you think that is missing in the equation of, because I mean, if you go to somebody like Diego, he will understand immediately what you talk about, right? But if you go to somebody who has, got their first pit stop that was bundled with a machine, and then they listened to Diego, and they was just like, no, that's not me. That's not my way. This way. So are we sometimes missing that actually understanding not just the business objectives, but also how we get things going? What do you think, Joanne?
I mean, that what you said is everything that I try to achieve. Is, first of all, what problem are you trying to solve, and how can we do it as efficiently and effectively as possible? And where are the stumbling blocks? Where are the holdups? And that's in everything. People, processes, hardware, software, in every business. I mean, even running a kitchen, making a meal. There are ways. You should see what I do to recipes to optimize them so that I can be more efficient as I cook.
Yeah,
I take that mindset of optimized efficiency, I think, to a new level. Maybe I'm a little OCD about it, but that I think is really where we're all starting to go, because we recognized how, I think, valuable time is. So whatever we can do to get some time back is really what matters.
Ryan, if I ask you, because you are working in with a company that is famous for not writing anything easy that can be written hard, right?
If you say so.
No, I'm just kidding. But I was just wondering, because if you look at from an analysis company's perspective, do you also have a tendency to maybe take it from iteration to iteration? So that means that you kind of assume that everybody is on this level, and then we write something to the next level. And sometimes we forget that the vast majority of, I mean, the reason why this is, in my opinion, a very interesting subject to talk about is because what frustrates me whenever I visit printing companies all over the world, in the US, in Europe, in Asia, it's not everybody who's got workflow. I mean, your potential as Solimar is vast, right? I mean, you have such an opportunity in the market that sometimes it maybe comes down to, okay, how do we step a little bit down in our communication? How do we reach people on a different level? And that's why I like your approach in this session. And are you, if you look at Key Point Intelligence, are you able to, I know that mainly talk to the vendors, right? But you take data from printing companies as well, right? No? So
remember that Ryan and I spent several years out on the road doing workflow assessments, and he's still doing assessments for Keypoint. And one of the things that I think, especially somebody like Ryan, who's worked in a print shop, brings to the table is that ability to balance the sort of workflow automation viewpoint with the practical reality of running a print shop. I'll stop putting words in your mouth now, Ryan.
No, I was just going to go back to when I was trying to, it was the lag in the platform here. But I think what Morten was kind of getting at, or at least correct me if I'm wrong, but it's kind of ironic that we were so people and process focused when we're supposed to be on the topic of a smart factory, right? But I think to speak to that, Morten, that's true. It's I think from an analyst perspective, since we're technology, in love with technology, we kind of right up here, right? But the market is often way behind where we're at in our writing and thought processes and stuff. But the people will ultimately make or break what you are trying to do in terms of your path to a smart factory. If you do not have an individual like a Diego who is open to change, open to new ways of doing things, and can actually put that into the ground and make it work, you're going to have a very difficult time reaching this goal.
And that is my point, is that the starting point is maybe some, very diverse from company to company, maybe even from country to country. So one thing that I can't help, I just want to let you know about something that you should maybe have in mind, maybe you already have, is that you as Americans are so fortunate that almost all software in the world is natively in English, right? So just the fact that when you come from other parts of the world and you often have to even think about what it means, that actually sometimes I think that Europeans sometimes feel that they are a little bit imbecile when they talk to Americans, because they have to translate everything into an understandable language before they get it. And I think that's also part of, if you really want to grow, and I understand all what you're saying today, I think, take me to an exam, please. But I was just thinking that to some extent, the communication perspective. I know that I've been, walking around in the same topic. I'm just saying that the potential, just the fact that you have more than 200,000 printing companies in China and more than 200,000 printing companies in India, and all of them want to be on the same level, or at least a lot of them want to be on the same level as the rest of us. So we need to make sure that we convert our talk tracks into something that is not just language-wise, but also comprehensive-wise in relation to get things going. I think that what I see and hear about Solimar, and when I talk to you guys, also, I did hear everything you said. So if I say something now which is not true, then I'm sorry. But one of the things I think that is a very important part of your business is your educational and learning programs, right? You have a
Yes.
vast library of educational information, and you have under normal conditions, you have your annual user conference where you're really educating people on a very, very skilled level. So I think that you are on the right track in that perspective. I'm just saying that these things are really important to get, I think.
Yeah, no, and Marianne, maybe you have some thoughts on that, or the other things we were talking about here.
Yeah. Well, the user conference, what we really do, Morten, is it's really focused on best practices. And so it's not really, years ago, it was all about our tools, and everybody sat and played with every tool and every button and niche, and, if you do all these combinations, but now it's all about best practice. And how do you set up a production environment? How do you migrate, or even from, again, a dev over to production? How do you have visibility? So yeah, it's all about, again, more best practices. And then really we like to bring the community together. And I learn as much from them, even an assessment. I love to walk around and say, gosh, tell me all about this. Like you walk into some place that has the 6 big screens, kind of like where Pat sits, but in a real factory. And so we just try to ask a lot of questions. So I think it's more of a community coming together. I think Jonathan would agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, just to add real quickly to that, Morten, I think, I saw some questions. I don't know if they went to everyone or just me, but, people were asking about, where we see AI or, artificial intelligence, and what about working with print manufacturers. And we look at all of that, but through these great engagements and talking with our customer advisory council in these kind of events, that's where we get our inspiration for our dev teams of what to do next. We don't want to just build something just to build it. We want to build something to impact the industry. And I think artificial intelligence is still one of those things where everyone's trying to find the right time to bring it in. And to the point of this session, you've got to have a bunch of things in place and be comfortable with a basic level of automation and how change affects that automation over time before I think you can really get to AI. I mean, I think we call AI things sometimes that aren't. Machine learning is not quite AI. And I think true artificial intelligence is still down the road, but I think it's something we learn from our customers about how they would want to implement, and then we thoughtfully roll that out. So like Ryan said, it's a little bit behind, but we like to be in these spirited discussions so that we are innovative.
Something Joanne and Ryan both brought up was that ultimately you can gather all the data in the universe, but if you don't trust the data and don't trust what that data is trying to tell you, and you don't have your workflow designed so that the data is telling you the things you need to know, you don't have a smart factory. You have a whole lot of stuff that you spend a lot of money on that isn't actually very smart. You build a dumb factory. But in the end, one of the things that every printer needs to do to determine if smart factory protocols are right for them is to go forward.
Wonderful session. I had to throw you out. Thank you very much for your time. And see you soon in reality, I hope, or in private sessions or whatever. Thank you, guys, and talk to you soon. Okay?
All right. Bye, Morten.
Thanks, Morten.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
All right. Now